Worcester, our 60 volunteers are back to have their bloods taken. So far, half of them have been gluten-free for 2 weeks. Half of them have been secretly given pasta containing gluten. We're recording any symptoms they notice and analysing their blood to see whether these match changes in their immune system and gut. They'll be back in a few weeks' time after swapping to the opposite diet, when we'll retest them. We're hoping to discover whether gluten is having a real and measurable effect on any of them. Now, gluten, of course, is not the only foodstuff that people worry about. There are companies out there flogging tests that apparently will tell you if you're allergic or at least intolerant to a whole range of things, from apples to yeast, from meat to tea. They cost between £10 and £300, and with allergies on the rise, we are buying a lot of them. But do they really work? I'm going to try out a few and find out. The tests you can buy on the high street and online vary in what they claim to analyse. And they'll use anything, from a piece of hair to a drop of blood, to diagnose your problem. One tube full of measly blood. And they promise a healthier you as a result, because the consumption of certain foods can have profound effects on the physical and mental health of susceptible individuals. The results from the different tests tell me that I have an intolerance to, amongst other things, walnuts, durum wheat, maple syrup, eggs, mountain juniper, corn, even parsley and dill. Another test tells me that I do have food intolerances, but I'd have to stump up another £284 to discover what they are. So should I be worried and pay up? To find out, I'm meeting allergist Dr. Adam Fox from Guy's and St Thomas's Hospital. First up, allergies. I took one test that claimed to measure my immune system's antibodies, and it said I had no allergies, although I was actually suffering from hay fever. What was happening here?
It's very easy to misinterpret the tests, and that test only has value if it's done together with a medical history. So doing it in isolation as a screening test, which is what lots of parents and patients do, waste of time.
So this is not a useful test to do on its own. Only if you have clear symptoms of an allergy, such as itching and sneezing, would your doctor do a test, and for specific likely causes. And as for the quite expensive allergy test that can apparently be done from a hair sample,
we know that has no scientific validity. You can actually hear the quacking coming out of the box with something like that.
So, a firm no to any home testing for allergy. They need proper medical interpretation. How about the test kits for intolerances? These are, as we know from our big experiment, more difficult to diagnose.
Intolerances are different. They don't involve the immune system. So they can be unpleasant, but they're never really dangerous. For example, lactose intolerance is extremely common. So people don't have the enzyme in their gut that breaks down the sugar lactose that you find in milk, and as a result, when they drink plain milk, they'll get an upset tummy, they'll get diarrhea and bloating.
One of the intolerance test kits I used claimed to measure an antibody in the blood called IgG. It told me I had potential intolerances to wheat, rice and milk. But Adam has me do the same test again to demonstrate a point.
IgG is one of the naturally occurring antibodies produced by our immune system, and in fact they have a very, very important role in protecting us from infection. They also are produced in response to any number of things that you take into your body. So if you eat lots of food, your body will be recognising that it's food, it will be producing IgG antibodies to it, but those IgG antibodies won't really be doing anything in particular.
Okay, so it isn't an indication of sickness in any form?
It's never been shown to be a useful indicator of disease in any way.
And to illustrate that, my results on this exact same test today are different from when I took it previously. The levels of IgG in my blood simply indicate what I have been eating recently, not whether it was doing me any harm. Eggs, it suggested quite strongly here, whereas eggs are sort of, very weakly, according to this one here.
Yeah. And I'm sure if you did this test every day, it would come up a little bit differently, because your levels of any antibody are going to fluctuate from one day to the next.
So Adam's view on these home test kits is clear.
Across the world, the societies that represent allergists, gastroenterologists are very clear that these tests do not have a place in diagnosis.
So, although the kits may accurately measure IgG, that is of no use. There is no scientifically valid home test for food intolerances. Now, this is not just about money. Eliminating basics like eggs, wheat and dairy from your diet is not a good idea, particularly if you're a child. It should only really be done if there is proven need, and ideally under medical supervision. If you suspect you or your child has a food allergy, then visit your GP to be properly tested for that specific foodstuff. If you think you have an intolerance, then the best thing you can do is to try and eliminate it from your diet to see whether or not that makes a difference. Exactly as our volunteers at the university have been doing with gluten. And we'll see what differences that made to them later in the programme.